you're watching India's leading educational web channel, Shapsi Media. Welcome to our show Masterclass with me, Nandita Adhikari. Today we have Dr. Debashish Chakravarti with us, Dean of School of Communication, GD Goenka University. Welcome to our show, sir. We are really happy to have you.
Thank you, Nandita.
Okay, sir. So, first of all, I would like to ask you about your experience. What made you to come in this field of mass communication?
I came to the field of mass communication because I thought to reach more people, millions of people, this is one subject that can reach you so quickly. Therefore, during my student life, I used to write for newspapers and I could reach the people so quickly. Then I thought this is the only career. Those days, television was not there, so newspaper was most popular. So during my student life in master's course, my articles were getting published and I was getting lots of appreciation for that. But apart from having appreciation, what is more important, I could take up some social issues. Say, for example, my first social issue that I have taken up when I was a student was that the Sanskrit learning was dying in a place called Bhattapalli. That was the place where all the Sanskrit tolls were there. So I was advised by the editor if I can do a piece on them. So I made the pandits in the tolls. Actually, Sanskrit, there were few takers for learning Sanskrit those days. So when I wrote that, that became a anchor story, and it was really I got lots of feedback on that, and from there on I keep on writing articles, etc. I also did some investigative stories during my student life. That was some of the stories that was on Chittagong Armory, uh, on Chittagong's issue when the Shuddha Sen and other, they took over the British power. Some of the old documents that was hidden in the archives of Asiatic Society, I have taken it out. So these are important issues, historical issues, but then it was for the public information. When I got so much of success as a student, I thought this should be the career. And then when I passed my master's, my first interview was in Indian Express, Bombay, and I was successful. Yeah.
As we all know that there has been a drastic change in education system if we compare today's scenario with 70s or 80s. So according to you, what changes have you experienced in the field of education?
The basic change that has happened, there was no Google and there is Google. With Google and without Google, students were much more sincere, much more hardworking. They were reading textbooks. They were reading reference books because there was no Google for them. They cannot just take out material from Google. So that was very important scenario. I remember for my PhD, I have noted down hundreds and hundreds of tips by myself, and I have noted down on the newspaper, on the paper, and so many A4 size papers. I have created huge documentation for myself. Okay, now the issue is because Google has made life easy for the students. Students are not becoming so hardworking that they should have been. Number one. Number two, while Google is an advantage, with the advantage of digital knowledge base, students should have been more analytical. They should have been able to develop better resource and knowledges. But what I find that there was more scholastic aptitude those days, and in modern times, obviously there is scholastic work going on. In general, the trend is copycat. Basically, people, students, when they were asked to do an assignment and other thing, what I have seen, the trend is they basically prefer to take out from Google. They even do not do paraphrasing. That's why the plagiarism software is so important in modern times. We are basically facing the crisis in modern times. The writing quality, the writing capability, creativity, this is being diminished by the advent of Google. Sometimes I feel whether Google is making us stupid or not. Though it is not fact, Google is a great resource on which we can work on. But the students are taking advantage of Google, but they are not actually taking those data from Google. So, and that is the real crisis, that they are basically becoming sophisticated copycats. And that's a real crisis in modern time. But actually what should have been done, since there are so many information available in the digital platform, they should have been able to synthesize, they should have been able to conceptualize, they should know how to compile this data and come out with their own opinion. That was a very important thing, which many of the students are avoiding just to have a quick shortcut. So that is one problem that is the modern times teachers are facing to prepare their students to the highest level. Therefore, I think this is a real crisis. Digitization has made a wonderful opportunity for the scholars to find out the data. But then with the digitization, what is happening, the students are not taking advantage of that situation. They are not reading textbooks. They are not going through the reference books. What they want to do, they want to quickly browse online material, and there is nothing wrong in browsing online material. But what is important is that to develop the sound knowledge, they should read some textbooks. They should read not only the textbook of their subject, they should read other subjects also. They should read literature also, whether they are students of science, computer science, or what. What I feel the trend in modern times is that the present education system, while we are propagating the robotics and also our students through our universities, we are churning many live robots. Actually, they are not active mentally. What is happening, like the way the robots are fed with a particular program, with a particular algorithm, similarly the same thing is happening. We are creating live robots. Actually, herein lies the real crisis of modern education. Are we creating live robots, or are we creating people who can really think, who can really think beyond Google, taking material from Google? Can they develop their own opinion? Can they synthesize? Can they really conceptualize? Can they give birth to a new idea? This is a real crisis actually. So my point is that mechanization of thought, robotization of thought process is happening, which is actually very dangerous. It will happen in near future. New ideas and new discoveries will be very rare. What will happen? Technological advancement is happening, technological discovery is happening, but then in the field of fundamental science, in the field of fundamental knowledge, we are not contributing much. That's a real crisis in fundamental science, and even great literatures are not being produced. Why this crisis? We need to think as teachers, we must probe this issue. As students, they should also think why they are lagging behind. And of course, when I say that, I'm not talking about 100% students. Look, out of this system, you know, Mark Zuckerberg has developed Facebook. There are many things the students are doing in their teens. They are coming up with many new ideas. They have become innovative. In that case, Google and the database and all the online database are becoming supportive. But when students are trying to be copycat, they're actually ending up getting a degree, getting a certificate without having appropriate knowledge. And that is a real danger, which teachers and students, they should fight together. This is my opinion.
Correct, sir. So what according to you we can adapt from international media to improve our media practices?
Look, what is important in international media, if we compare basically English media, the language is much more sophisticated. That is most important thing as far as English media, as far as international media is concerned. They are much more in depth. If you go through the Economist intelligence unit, Economist research, everybody has a research unit. Of course, we also do the same, but our research, our stories are not that like BBC stories, say for example. BBC is a trendsetter. Al Jazeera is a trendsetter. Tell me one Indian channel which the people follow like Al Jazeera or BBC. Why we cannot do that? NDTV came up with some standard, but gradually our television channel is becoming, mostly I have seen, they are becoming, in the name of talk shows, what they are doing, They are just becoming a tool of propaganda for any political party. So politicization of media has spoiled the independence of media. Once the independence of media has been spoiled, the acceptance of media, credibility of media has been spoiled. It is not only true for Indian media, it is also true for US media. Say, for example, there are media which Trump allows in his press conferences. He doesn't allow New York Times, but he allows Fox News. Why? Because Fox News is politicized. Because Fox News will speak for Trump. So everywhere, rulers are trying to pressurize the media, but in the American and Western context, since the public opinion is very strong, you have seen during this date of this date of this black person, you have seen what a huge protest the American people have done. Even whites were part of this protest. So what happens, because of more active participation of the people, because of the consciousness of the people, it is not possible for Trump to actually overwhelm the media, to control the entire media. He cannot do that. In fact, he is more criticized by American media than the international media. In our case, it is just the reverse. We always try to play, what I should say, we always try to play as a playboy to the ruling party. It is not only happening in present regime, it happened during Indira's regime also. That's why in a white paper, Indira said during emergency, before I asked them to sit, they kneel down before me. So it is not that only during BJP's regime it is happening, it happened in Congress regime also. So every time we have seen the ruling party, they're trying to muzzle the voice of the press, because press is the only platform through which the voice of dissent can be heard. And it is in the interest of the democracy that people must hear the voice of dissent. There should be no crisis if there is a dissenting voice. Rather, it will strengthen the democracy. But what is happening? The ruling power, whoever comes to power, they become absolutely afraid of being criticized. Now, once you are not allowing the dissenting voice to be echoed in the media, to be reflected in the media, media never remains media. It becomes a party spokesman. It becomes a party organ. So that is the problem in modern times. You can see some of the channels, actually, they speak more about the ruling party than the ruling party's organ is speaking. So this is the crisis. That's why I tell you, in modern times, the media is suffering from credibility. Credibility gap is gradually developing because of all this over politicization of the media. So when it is saffron power, it is saffronization. When it is Congress, they will also try to mobilize. They will also try to pressurize. These are the things we are observing. So what happens? They will obviously try. The ruling regime will always try to control the media. We have seen that in the British period also. British wanted to muzzle the voice of the press. That's why they brought Vernacular Press Act. So you know all the vernacular press in British period, they have to be censored. So one vernacular press, I remember, Amrit Bazar Patrika, overnight became an English paper. So that was the tradition in Indian freedom struggle. Every freedom fighter who were political leaders those days, they were actually good writers. They used to write a lot. They were actually to some extent advocating for a cause. But nowadays, no cause, nothing. They are just working for their survival. Only what is happening, pastry journalism is increasing. That's what you can see. Pastry journalism is dominating in Indian journalism in modern times. Entertainment journalism, I'm not against that. But what is important is that the basic function of the media is to inform people. Actually, what is media? We are basically working at the behest of the people, and we are working for their right to know. So every media person is basically actually working for discharging the human right of the people, their right to know. So we don't remember that. We feel our basic duty is to right to please the ruling power. That's the real problem. That's the real crisis, and therein lies the credibility gap. And once the media faces this credibility gap, the fourth estate is gradually diminishing. Why it was a fourth estate? Because we have our executive bureaucracy, judiciary, but then there was press, there was media. They were considered as a fourth estate in the balance of power. But now the fourth estate is gradually diminishing. I have been observing it is not only in our country, even in America it is happening. But in American newspaper, in American media, is much more powerful, much more democratic spirit they have. That's why Trump is more criticized in American press, in American media, in American channels than our rulers in modern times.
Okay, so because of this whole propaganda thing, many newcomers face agenda-based pressure in media houses. So what is your take on that?
The problem is people now know what media is contributing to, is actually subscribing to what view. So nowadays the challenge is for the students while they join, they know that if they join this media, they have to actually write in this order. They actually know this. You know what Republic is doing. Say for example, the Republic channel. If you are joining as a trainee in Republic channel, or if you are working as an employee or as a journalist in the Republic channel, what you have to write, you know. But when we joined in the media profession, there was no such prescription that this particular newspaper, they subscribe to this particular political party, except National Herald, which was funded by Indian National Congress. Except that you cannot say that this particular newspaper was 100% supporting this particular political party. So that was not the case. So to some extent, independent journalism was happening. Nowadays, what is happening is paid journalism. It is an era of paid journalism. It is an era of page three journalism. The objectivity in journalism, which the BBC has set a trend, that has gone from Indian journalism. So this is a real tragedy that paid journalism is flourishing. So actually news is an advertisement, and it is actually an advertisement, but undeclared advertisement. Political news is political advertisement. What we are trying to do, we are appeasing the powers that be, and that is what is happening in modern times. And this is the real crisis in modern times. In order to change this chapter, we need some newspapers. They will work with a missionary zeal. They will actually try to work with the vision of freedom, democracy. Like in America, there is a paper called Christian Science Monitor. They never report violence. They never report violence because that is against their ethics. So they do not do that. So what is important is that we need from the schools of journalism to create ethical journalists. They will fight for this. They will work for this. And also, when I say this, you know that it is not that Indian journalists are not fighting and they are being brutally killed. So there are examples that the journalists are being harassed. They are being called to the police stations. They are being brutally killed. That lady journalist was brutally killed. So these are the things that is happening. So a fear psychosis has been created for the journalist to work and to work with independence. And you know, when the management bows down, management needs advertisement. So they know that if they can please the powers that be, they will get more advertisement. So they are being sold out. Once the management is sold out, the journalist is very difficult for a journalist to actually maintain his independent stance. That is very difficult because in these days of monopoly journalism, the basically you see there are monopoly houses, and monopoly houses are connected with powers that be, and these political economic relations, advertisement, etc., all these issues are factors. These are working as pressure groups to actually take away the free spirit, free speech, and the independent journalism. This is a cause of concern for the future also, because unless we know the real truth, we'll never know. Say for example, in the Ladakh border, what exactly is happening? Do we know exactly what is happening? That is the point. You never know what exactly is happening. So these are the issues that needs to be taken care of by the would-be journalists. They should be bold enough. They should have more competence level, and they should be dedicated to the morality and ethics which makes a man as a human being. So that's my advice, is that the universities which are producing journalists, they should also inspire them from the examples of our of the journalists those who fought for the freedom of the press. Even in the post-independent India, we have seen our media, they have exposed scandals like Bofors scandal. They have exposed important scandals, you know that. So it is not only exposing scandal, what is important is that the trend of investigative journalism that was becoming very strong in Indian journalism are missing nowadays. So that's another cause of concern. So these are the things I can tell the students, that if you are entering into this field, you should be prepared for this mental struggle. You should be prepared for either you should continue with your own ideas and ideologies, or you have to sacrifice. So it's a huge pressure for a newcomer, and they cannot survive like their own ideas. But the issue is that if they're intelligent enough, still they can create some important objective news. Probably we'll look forward to those students will come to the field of journalism and will create a new chapter in Indian journalism, a new chapter of ethical and moral journalism in Indian press and Indian media and Indian channels. And also the important factor is that with the advent of social media, when media is dictated by the powers that be, there are papers like Scroll, Quint, etc. They are exposing a lot of things. So you cannot say that we do not have a space to write. If you want to write, there are places. So therefore, you cannot only go for the mainstream channel. There are alternative forums which also is being supported by many Indians. Many people nowadays don't believe the mainstream papers. They read the alternative online papers like Quint, as I have told, Scroll, etc. So these are becoming very popular in modern times because they know that to get the truth, you cannot find it in so-called mainstream paper. But of course, among the mainstream English newspapers, I can tell you the role of Hindu is a really glorious role. The Indian Express is playing a glorious role. But then that way I should not name. There must be some other papers that are playing a glorious role. But then obviously the online papers have more freedom, and investment is less for them. So the risk is less for them. NDTV, you must have seen what amount of pressure, government pressure they are facing. So you know how NDTV is functioning. It actually set a standard for Indian television journalism. But what price they are paying for that, you must know that. So this is what I am telling you, that under huge pressure, it is really difficult. But then the future journalism boys and girls must be ready to work for any channel which will really will fight for journalism is a pursuit for truth. So wherever there is pursuit for truth, I wish this new generation journalists, new generation students should work for them.
Okay, sir. So we know that you are the author of 3 wonderful books. So what led you to write those books?
Well, the latest books, I can tell you, The Harakiri of a Nation, where I have told because of casteism, because of communalism, India as a nation is getting disintegrated. What is happening, India becoming actually weak because of that. When we are politically we're a nation, there cannot be, we cannot divide us between caste and caste. The nation cannot have a caste. Nation cannot be divided between a community and a community. Since in our freedom struggle, we did it, our freedom struggle was basically mixed with religion. And basically it was Hindu nationalism. What is happening because of that? Our nationalism is not based on secular ideas. That's why the remnant of that religious trend is still there. Still, we are catering to Hindu nationalism, and that's why we divide the nation. Another factor in the post-independent period has come, caste versus caste. This casteist politics is so bad that even the election candidates are decided on the strength of what caste, how many votes are there for what caste. So this casteist politics and this communalist politics, British actually started a communal divide. Otherwise, India was together. So British started this actually, but then what happened in modern times? India as a nation could not get rid of communalism and casteism. In my book, I have actually pointed out that this is actually weakening India. India as a nation has to be stronger. If we have to be stronger, we have to be united. If we have to be united, we cannot be differentiated. We cannot differentiate between caste and caste. We cannot differentiate between one community with another community. Once we are politically a nation, there is no caste, there is no community. But this concept has to be promulgated, has to be taken forward by the political parties, which they are lacking. They are actually promoting communalism. They are actually promoting casteism in election. And that's why this is where India is standing at a point where India is never united. Imagine under the given crisis situation of COVID-19, if India is not united, how do we fight? When we are fighting COVID-19, then China is a threat in our border. Under the given situation, it is very important that India must be united. To be united, India, there shall be no differentiation between caste and caste, between religion and religion. Imagine, look at our problem is caste versus caste, religion versus religion. America's problem is race versus race, blacks versus white. So this is not a very good trend in a civilized world where people are identified by their skin color. Similarly, it is not a good trend in India that we identify by caste. Casteism is an anachronism of the past. Communalism is an anachronism of the past. But in India, this anachronism of the past is very much relevant, and that's real danger. And that I have highlighted in my book. In my first book, in which I have basically evaluated the media ethics, and I have shown how the Indian media have bent down, have sacrificed the freedom of speech and expression during emergency. I have shown that how in reporting they have compromised and they have sacrificed their spirit of freedom. I give you an example. Say, for example, when we are reporting international relations, say, for example, international event, I have compared that Diana and Prince Charles marriage. This is an international event. At that time, Bobby Sands in Ireland was on fast for 65 or 66 days. He died, and Bobby Sands' death was mentioned only as a paragraph, but Lady Diana and Prince Charles' marriage was covered so loudly in every newspaper. So what happens? India's freedom movement was inspired by the Irish liberation movement. But what happens? Irish movement inspired Indian freedom movement. But our newspapers have lost that tradition. They were giving more focus, more publicity to an imperial event, the imperial marriage, the marriage of Prince Charles and Lady Diana. So do you think it was very important for us to know every detail of that marriage? So that was covered by our press. So these are the examples. Say, for example, the date of V.V. Giri, who was the president, date of Sanjay Gandhi. Where is Sanjay Gandhi and where is V.V. Giri? So these are the issues that I have covered. I have also covered the coverage of population, the Harijans, the Girijans, the common millions, who actually are 90% of the population of Indian population. They get only 5 to 8% of the coverage in the Indian media, whereas the business tycoons, the film stars, and the celebrities, they get 90% of the space. So what is this India? If you look at the Indian media, you will find that India actually is made of only few celebrities, only few political leaders, and few business magnates. And then this is India. So actually, where are the stories of those people? Like example, you have seen during this COVID-19, and thousands of migrant workers have suffered such a situation, horrible situation. Thanks to Indian media that they have covered them. But I have, in my research, I have seen that English newspapers, which they say that they are very standard, I have shown them quantitatively that the Indian common millions, common citizens, they hardly get 5 to 8% of the space as compared to those in power, political power, those who are at the top of the business, and those who are in the film fraternity. So these are the stories that I have covered, and I have developed a model of what can be an ethical model. How can our newspapers can be ethical? And when the book was published, it got huge review from all newspapers, all English newspapers, even PTI, UNI. They have sent the review, meaning the book, not only book review, as a story in the newspaper it came. It's not a book review. Book review was done, but the book actually attracted attention. And for your information, I requested Khushbant Singh to release this book. In press club he came and he agreed to release the book on condition that he has plenty of things to say, because I criticized Khushbant Singh and other established editors, editorial decisions during emergency, editorial decisions after Sanjay Gandhi's death. So Khushbant Singh came, speak against the book. Nikhil Chakrabarti and other journalists, they spoke in favor of my book. It was a great debate and it was really reported like that. But thanks to Khushbant Singh, he wrote a lot about my book in his column. That was very popular those days, with malice towards one and all. So these are the stories of my short life, and that I can recollect with you.
Okay, so lastly, I want you to say a message to viewers of Shapsi Media.
Well, be conscious. That's my point. Don't trust without cross-checking. Like in Indian media now, any information that is coming, there is a system called fact-checking. The media house has become very much conscious about fact-checking. If you see the India Today unit of fact-checking is very powerful these days. So whatever you hear, you just see an alternative channel, an alternative media to cross-check it. Don't believe whatever you hear, either in social media or in mainstream media. Therefore, you take your decision, take the inputs from the media, because media gives the input, but ultimately you have to frame your own opinion. You have to develop your own opinion. Therefore, reading one channel, listening to one channel, reading one newspaper is not enough in modern times. Similarly, believing one social media is not enough. Similarly, going by the tweets of one political party is not enough. You must go to alternative, to others also. The way journalists, they always cross-check fact. Every person can be a journalist in modern times. Mentally, they should cross-check the fact that they are coming to know. So my appeal to all the viewers of your channel is that be a conscious citizen of India and try to protect India. Be united at this crisis hour. Work in hand to fight against COVID-19. So that's my message to all the viewers of your channel. And it is a crisis hour for the nation. So we should be united together to win this situation. And I hope there is a bright future waiting for us if we are united. If COVID-19 can unite all of us together, though it is a deadly virus, but I must tell you, it will have some advantage for us. Like British was an imperial ruler, but they actually united India. India as a united entity has come during British rule. Similarly, for fighting COVID-19, if we are working together hand in hand, without remembering what caste you are, what religion you are, what state you belong to, what province you belong to, what political party you belong to, get rid of all these things. Now behave as if as a responsible citizen, work in hand, and defeat the threat of corona, because the life is in danger of every Indian citizen. So therefore, you be a conscious reader, and also you be a responsible citizen, and have your and establish all your rights and fight against corona with hand in hand with each other. That's my message to your viewers.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for joining us and you gave us your precious time. And thank you for sharing your experience with us. We're really glad that you came and you joined.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.